how come such awakened guy like you is playing games? Isn't that a waste of time? Video games. Should we talk about video games? I think we should. Let's talk about video games. Now, there is this idea that video games are not for older people, that they are for young people, especially young men who are in their teenage years. They're 12 years old, 13, 14, 15 years old. And then once you hit the age of 17, 18, 19, you are expected to then get tired of video games and then move on with adult things like getting a job, working a job, getting married, and having children and caring for children. So, here is the reality. Growing up, 1990s, what did we have for fun a lot of the time? A lot of the times, what we did for fun on the weekends was we would go to Blockbuster. A lot of the times, that's what people did. They went to freaking Blockbuster. And Blockbuster, for those of you who do not live in America, was a place that you would go to rent movies. That's where we would go to rent movies. Blockbuster, and then there was another place that you would go to rent films. It was called Hollywood Videos. So you would either go, depending on where you were and which one of these was closest to you, you would either go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Videos and you would rent a movie. And they had little sections, right? So you went to Blockbuster or Hollywood Videos. I think Hollywood Videos was bigger. I think the Hollywood Videos location was bigger. And you would go inside, and then you would you would explore the sections, right? So there would be a horror movie section, action movies, drama, and then they had the foreign films. They had Romanian movies, Russian movies, which were all basically porn. And then there were the Croatian movies. Once in a while, you would find a Middle Eastern film. Once in a while, you would find an Israeli movie. And that was almost always porn. And then there was a video game section. Then there was the section that you never went to. That was the LGBT section. Yes, they had one. I am not joking. Even in the early 2000s, they had the gay films. Okay, and I never went into those sections ever. But everybody did this. Everybody went to one of these video renting businesses, and they would rent out a movie. So you'd take the movie, you'd go home, you'd put some popcorn in the microwave, and then you'd watch the movie. Sometimes, if the movie was good enough, you'd watch it a second time. Maybe even a third time. And then you would return the video before you had to pay late fees. Now, if you were late in returning the video, then you had to pay late fees. But if you returned the film in time, you didn't have to pay anything. You just gave the video back and you left. Now, people don't really do these things anymore. They don't go to places to rent videos. Why? Because we have something called Netflix. Netflix, Shudder. You have what else do we have? Is my voice coming out clear? Just let me know if you have difficulty hearing my voice. Right, you had to rewind the video before you returned it. That was a common courtesy. But we don't really do that anymore because we have Netflix, Shudder, Apple Movies, Amazon Prime. We have all these programs. And one day I think some businessman will come up with an idea to put all of these companies under one umbrella. And then that way you don't have to see if the movie is in Apple or in Shudder or in Netflix or in some other film rental business. You just go to one website where you can find all the movies that are being distributed by these companies. I think one day that'll happen. Because sometimes you go to Shudder or you go to Netflix and a certain film is not on Netflix. So you go and you check if it's on Shudder or if it's on Amazon Prime or something like that. And I think one day someone's just going to put all these companies under one umbrella in one website. So that way you can just go to one website and find all the movies without having to see if another particular site has the film that you're searching. People still watch movies. People in their 50s, people in their 40s, people in their 60s still watch movies. My grandmother watches movies. She's 80-something years. How old is my grandmother? Let me think. 87, 88 years old. She's an old lady. I mean, she's old. She was alive when Pearl Harbor happened. She remembers as a young girl throwing darts at a little target of Tojo, the Japanese general. She's an old lady. My grandmother still watches movies. She watches old movies, old British films, BBC, crime detective shows. I mean, she watches all sorts of stuff. And she's 80-something years old. She's older than anybody on this chat right now. Now, why does my grandmother watch movies? Because she grew up with films. She grew up with them. She grew up watching movies. I grew up with video games and movies. So to ask somebody from my generation to stop watching or to stop playing video games is like asking someone who grew up watching movies to stop watching movies. They're just not. Who here has stopped watching films because that's not what adults do? None of you, right? All of you guys watch movies. All of you. And I've gotten some good film recommendations from people on this chat. Some of you guys have told me about certain films that I haven't heard before. And I've watched them and I've looked up films that you guys have told me about. And some of them were good and some of them were okay, whatever. But still, all of you guys watch movies because you grew up with films. And films are a way to entertain yourself. Films are a way to exercise imagination. And the human mind has always been this way. You can go back to the 17th century. You can go back as far as you want in human existence, and you will find humans depicting things through art, drawing things on walls, drawing historical events on walls, depicting battles on walls. I mean, you can find artwork from ancient France, and you'll see people holding spears and, I don't know, hunting animals and things like that. You can find that in from ancient Europe. So human beings have always had this desire for some reason. I don't think we can fully explain why, but for some reason, human beings have always had this desire to depict events through artwork. And film is just one of those forms of expression, albeit it's the most popular form of expression, artistic expression when it comes to depicting things. There's also music, and music has always been here. We love films because they help us reflect, and they help us escape. We love video games for the same reason. So when people sit there and say, oh, young people play video games, well, older people watch movies. And a film is kind of like a video game. The only difference between a video game and a film is that you don't partake at all in the movie. A film is just a journey for your brain. You hit play and you watch. A video game, you're going through a journey, but you have some kind of participation in the story itself. So that's my thoughts on video games. I don't see any issue with video games at all. Yeah.